It was 7 a.m. on April 5th, 1996. 50-year-old Karnail Singh was washing his car in the driveway of his Vernon, British Columbia home when a green sedan screeched to a halt in front of him. A 30-year-old man stepped out, dual pistols gleaming in the morning light. Before Karnail could even react, the gunman opened fire, sending him crashing to the pavement like a fallen tree. But this wasn't just a murder, it was the beginning of a massacre that would claim 9 lives and shock an entire nation. The killer calmly stepped over Karnail's bleeding body and walked into the house behind him. For the next 3 minutes, neighbors counted 30 gunshots echoing from within those walls. What they discovered inside would become one of Canada's most brutal family annihilations. A crime so savage it made headlines from British Columbia to Punjab, India. The screaming had stopped. The house had fallen silent. When neighbors finally worked up the courage to peer through the windows, what they saw sent them running back into the street, calling 911 with trembling hands. Welcome to Dark Investigations. I'm your host, and today we're diving deep into the Vernon massacre, a case that exposes the deadly intersection of domestic violence, cultural pressure, and one man's descent into unthinkable evil. To understand this tragedy, we need to go back 20 years earlier, to a small farming village in Punjab, India. In 1976, Karnail Singh was a wheat farmer with big dreams. He wanted more than the agricultural life could offer. Better education for his children, advanced healthcare, and opportunities that simply didn't exist in rural India. When the Canadian government announced its immigration program that June, Karnail didn't hesitate. He applied immediately to the Canadian embassy, and within a month he received approval. But there was a catch. He would have to come alone first, prove himself, and then bring his wife Darshan and their 3 daughters later. For 3 grueling years, Karnail worked multiple jobs: fruit shop clerk by day, factory operator in the evenings, and part-time farm worker on weekends. He slept only 4 to 5 hours a night, driven by the dream of reuniting with his family. His sacrifice paid off. By 1979, he'd saved enough to buy a house and finally bring Darshan and the girls to Canada. Life in Vernon was good to the Singh family. After arriving in Canada, Karnail and Darshan had 2 more daughters and a son, giving them 6 children total. Karnail's hard work ethic had instilled itself in his children. All 6 became highly educated professionals. The 3 eldest daughters secured government jobs as a dentist and lawyer, while the younger children became engineers and a doctor. As his children reached marrying age, Karnail began arranging marriages in the traditional Punjabi way. His eldest daughter, Jasbir Kaur, married his sister's son, Balgil Singh. They had 3 young daughters and seemed happy. For his second daughter, Rajwar Kaur, he arranged a marriage with Vijay Sahal, a chartered accountant who seemed like the perfect match. But perfection was merely a facade. From their very first night as husband and wife, Vijay revealed his true nature. He'd seen male friends at their wedding reception speaking with Rajwar, and his jealousy consumed him. That night, he came home drunk and beat his new bride mercilessly. When she cried, he beat her harder and forced himself on her. This wasn't a one-time incident. It was the beginning of a pattern of escalating abuse that would continue for months. Vijay would come home intoxicated and use Rajwar as his personal punching bag. He burned her with cigarettes, threw objects at her, and even during their most intimate moments, he would hurt her physically. The abuse reached horrifying new levels when Vijay forced Rajwar to strip naked and stand while he scratched her body with a knife. He would smash alcohol bottles on the floor and make her walk barefoot across the broken glass, watching as her feet bled. Rajwar kept the abuse secret, not wanting to burden her family or bring shame upon them. She hoped desperately that her husband would change, that the man she married would somehow emerge from this monster. But Vijay's psychotic behavior only intensified. Finally, Rajwar couldn't take anymore. One night, after a particularly brutal assault, she fled to her father's house. Through tears and visible injuries, she told her family everything. Karnail Singh was furious. This was his daughter, his educated, accomplished daughter, and no one had the right to treat her this way. He immediately filed a police complaint against Vijay. When investigators contacted Vijay, he panicked. Suddenly, the tough guy who terrorized his wife became a pleading coward. He begged Karnail and Rajwar for forgiveness, promising he'd been drunk and didn't know what he was doing. He swore he'd changed. Against her better judgment, Rajwar felt pity for her husband. She convinced her father to withdraw the complaint and agreed to give the marriage one more chance. That decision would cost 9 people their lives. 1 week after Rajwar withdrew the complaint, Vijay drove to the Singh family home on Okanagan Avenue. He parked his green sedan in front of the house where Karnail was washing his car and stepped out with 2 loaded pistols. After shooting Karnail in the chest, Vijay walked calmly into the house. The family was gathered for a morning visit, something that should have been filled with laughter and conversation. Instead, it became a killing field. Vijay moved through the house methodically, room by room. In the living room, he found his wife Rajwar sitting with her sister Jasbir. 2 shots to their foreheads ended their lives instantly. In the kitchen, Darshan Kaur, the family matriarch who had supported her husband's dreams for 20 years, was shot in the neck and stomach. Upstairs, he found Karnail's 3 youngest daughters, Balvinder, Kalvinder, and Harvinder. These educated women, these doctors and engineers, who represented everything their parents had sacrificed for, were gunned down in their prime. In another room, he shot his brother-in-law, Karnail Singh, Balgil's elderly mother, and finally Karnail's only son, Jaspal. When the shooting stopped, 9 people lay bleeding throughout the house. Only Balgil's mother and 2 others clung to life, though they wouldn't survive long enough to see justice served. 3 hours after the massacre, police received a call from the Globe Hotel, just miles from the Singh home. In room 116, they found Vijay Sahal's body with a single gunshot wound to the head and a pistol in his hand. Next to his body lay a suicide note that read, "Rajwar said she wouldn't live with me. Her family kept her in their house instead of sending her back to me. I shot them all to death. I know the police will find me and arrest me, so I'm going to commit suicide before they can." No remorse, no acknowledgement of the innocent lives lost. Just the final act of a coward who couldn't face the consequences of his evil. The only survivors of that terrible morning were Jasbir's 3 young daughters, little girls who would grow up without parents, without aunts and uncles, without grandparents. The Canadian government, moved by this tragedy, covered all funeral expenses and buried the Singh family in Vernon Cemetery. This case forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about domestic violence, cultural pressures, and the deadly consequences of not taking threats seriously. Could this massacre have been prevented if the police complaint had remained active? How many other Rajwars are suffering in silence right now? What haunts me most about this case is how one man's inability to control his rage destroyed not just his own life, but an entire family's legacy. The Singh family represented the best of the immigrant dream: hard work, education, success, and contribution to their community. All of that was erased in 3 minutes of gunfire. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, please reach out for help. The warning signs were all there in this case, but tragically, they weren't enough to prevent this massacre. What are your thoughts on the Vernon massacre? Could this tragedy have been prevented? And how can we better protect victims of domestic violence before it's too late? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this case moved you, please like this video and subscribe to Dark Investigations for more in-depth true crime analysis. Until next time, stay safe out there.